Charles Albert Lenzie was born in a small town 70 miles south of Chicago. Among the 700 population of South Wilmington was Chuck's huge extended family. Every Sunday, they would gather at his grandfather's farm for Sunday dinner. It was Chuck's job to catch the chicken for dinner. A high school teacher made bookkeeping interesting, so Chuck thought he'd become an accountant. He graduated from the University of Illinois in 1960 and passed the CPA exam while a senior at the university. In Chicago, he interviewed with one of the then biggest names in the numbers business, Arthur Anderson.
When I went up to interview, the last person you talked to was a partner at the firm, after talking with the personnel people and some of the staff people and that sort of thing. And the partner was busy, and the secretary said, well, he'll be out momentarily. Here's some reading material. And one of the things I read about was Arthur Anderson's viewpoint on accounting for railroads, which was very unique. It was a unique position that Arthur Anderson took. And when I went in to talk to the partner, he said, why are you interested in Arthur Anderson? And I'm thinking, I need a job. I don't think he's going to accept that. So I said, really? I said, I'm really impressed with Arthur Anderson's stance on accounting for railroads. And that really, he said, really? And we talked about that for a while, and they hired me.
Wow.
Then I found out later that the guy that wrote the book on accounting for railroads was the guy I talked with. So talk about being lucky.
They were drafting young men for the military in those days, and Chuck got drafted in the U.S. Army and assigned to the Army Audit Agency. He spent time in France auditing European companies doing business with the U.S. government. After the required 2 years, he came back to Arthur Anderson. 8 years later, Chuck's 3 kids were having allergy problems and he wanted out of Chicago. He asked for a transfer. He got one and ended up in Los Angeles in 1970. 4 years later, he said, enough of this crazy place.
Living in L.A. in those days, and I suspect it's probably the same now, was tough duty because of all the traffic and the congestion and that sort of thing. So I started looking around, and one of the people I knew at Arthur Anderson was familiar with Nevada Power Company.
Nevada Power was looking for a financial vice president. The friend sent in Chuck's resume, and the company called to set up an interview.
I came over wearing my accountant uniform, blue suit, red tie, white shirt, wingtip shoes, and I walked in to talk to the president of the company, Art Pearson, and he's wearing an open collar and a pair of slacks, and I said, boy, this is something else. Went up and met the chairman of the board, and he was the same way, wearing an open shirt, open collar, and a pair of slacks. I said, wow. So they invited me to come back in August, because they had some other, it was terribly hot. And I'm wearing my accountant's uniform again, and they're dressed the same, open collar and that sort of thing. And we made the deal, come to work on October 1st. And I did. I came in wearing an open collar, and everybody in the place is wearing a suit or coat and tie.
Chuck found out later the dress code changed after Labor Day, and these were busy times for Nevada Power.
We were in 1974. We had about 115,000 customers at the company, and we were really in a growth period. It was right after the oil embargo of the early 1970s. And most of our power generation in those days was either from Hoover Dam or from oil-fired generating plants. And so we were trying to switch out of oil-fired and get into coal-fired generation. So we were involved in 3 different coal-fired projects.
When Chuck retired 10 years ago after 25 years with the company, the last as the chief executive, he never looked back. Now he has time to read about his favorite topic, the Civil War. Oh, this is the pistol you were talking about,
right? This is a pistol from the Civil War.
Yeah.
In fact, it even has the little ball there. Fortunately, it doesn't have any gunpowder.
Retirement also let Chuck take up golf in a serious way. He never had time before. He made history at the golf course.
Whoop. And that's one of my hole-in-one, that's all right.
Hole-in-one's right there.
That's it.
Let's see that ball. Is that ball?
That's it.
Got the hole-in-one?
That's the hole-in-one ball.
Okay, that's one. Oh, it says it right there.
Yeah, and there's another one down here.
3rd hole-in-one on number 17.
This is the first one.
In 2004, Nevada Power named a new plant after Chuck. The Chuck Lenzie gas-fired generating plant is about 20 miles out of town on US 93 on the way to Ely. Another Chuck Lenzie dedication occurred when a street near the Nevada Power offices on Sahara near Jones was named after Chuck. But after 5 years, he asked it be taken down and replaced with the name of his good friend and former president of Nevada Power, Steve Ragazio, who had died of Lou Gehrig's disease. That's just one of the things Chuck's longtime friend, John O'Reilly, says makes Chuck the ultimate nice guy.
Chuck, to me, is the epitome of a good leader. Chuck is strong, Chuck is wise, Chuck is bright, Chuck is committed. Chuck was a leader that people wanted to follow because they liked Chuck and liked what he stood for.
That, says O'Reilly, started the Lenzie era of regulatory cooperation at Nevada Power.
I think Chuck's legacy has been and will continue to be providing us with the insight and the wisdom and the understanding that to be a good leader, you can truly be a nice guy. And in fact, I think many of us believe that being a nice guy is an essential part of being a leader. I think that's particularly true in today's environment where we're in somewhat cutthroat politics, to say the least, cutthroat business issues. Chuck is a guy that deals with controversy in a very professional way and as a friend as opposed to a foe.
This is really one of the greatest thrills of my life, to tell you the truth. To be honored with such distinguished people as Mr. Lanny and Mrs. Dondero, Art Smith last year, who was on our board of directors, and the other inductees into the Hall of Fame over the years. I'm just thrilled beyond words.
Chuck, I just want to tell you, we sure appreciate what you've done through the years, appreciate what you're still doing. We owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude. That is we, all the people that serve in the back. Thanks for turning our lights on, Chuck.